Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. It's a pleasure to be here and see old friends and new friends, a new generation of searchers for the truth, of researchers for the truth. I won't say the baton has been handed on, but we do span some generations here tonight. There is a continuity. There is even a persistence of style, and expressly stated by Patrick. This new magazine, Prevailing Winds, and this Center for the Preservation of Modern History in Santa Barbara, very exciting, I think. And I look at Patrick and the new magazine, and then I nod to Art Kunken, the prime mover, the legendary founder of the Free Press, and indeed of a movement that swept this country in the 60s. There has to be a media, there has to be a bridge of communication for ideas to be broadcast. As George Orwell said, there was truth and there was untruth. But if you clung to the truth even against the whole world, you were not mad. You can only cling to the truth if there's a medium. It's the medium that you cling to. And as Patrick said, that is also the essence of nonviolence. There's a direct linkage here between this business of democracy and free discussion and challenge and nonviolence. And this rather abstract link becomes very palpable every few decades, and once again the hour has rolled around. And so many people here who have worked together over the years, now being drawn back together by events. And while it's true that, as Freud said, that people who belong together need not be glued together, still, one recognizes colleagues and co-workers at an hour such as this in America. And I'm going to make some comments and quickly introduce John Newman, whose very important new book is now beginning to make its way right across the country. You have the Dean, the Doyen, Peter Dale Scott. It's a great honor to be with him. One of the foremost poets in the world, some of you may know, coming to Jakarta, listening to The Candle, now crossing borders. And it's no mistake that poetry and passionate research are linked together. There are many linkages, unexpected, but creative, and that's really what I want to say. I'm interested in an attitude or an approach of creativity, of open-mindedness at an hour of crisis, and not falling back on stencils from the past or metaphors, however good, though there are many historical analogies that it does well to keep in mind, starting with the Reichstag, if one were going to dub an evening's discussion from Berlin to Oklahoma City. But we've called this From Dallas to Oklahoma City the deep politics, using a phrase of Peter Dale Scott's, a very evocative phrase, one that's rich with meaning, not wholly defined yet, as no good phrase should be. It's just a cry, a call. As Shaw said, that's half the battle, a good call, a good cry. The deep politics. It's up to us in our dialogue and in our work to make a definition at a somewhat lower order of abstraction so that we all know what deep politics means, what combination of insight and ingenuity, of subjectivity, as well as objective historical material, epistemology, the following of movements, ideas, and personalities. I want to try to make my contribution to this deep politics because it's one of the great virtues of Peter Scott that he is open-ended. He is not dogmatic, except about wanting to get to the bottom of events, to know, the need to know, the right to know, those constitutional and personal priorities that we all have, without which, it's true, I think, as the Greeks believed, that denied the right to know, or the need to know, that ananke, that one is philosophically and psychologically dead, and indeed soon enough physically dead. Soon enough, especially in the modern state with modern weapons, indeed modern conditions of enemy, of alienation, to say nothing of warfare, counterinsurgency, terrorism, and all those spasms which we deal with daily, and which have reached, again, a kind of a peak in Oklahoma City. So I want to try to be original and think in a fresh way, and I want to place an apothegm of Nietzsche's over my discussion, when he said, first there is the idea, and then the act, and then the idea of the act. The wheel of causality doth not roll between them. I would like to look at the idea of the act of Oklahoma City. I think other speakers tonight will have more specifics to detail for you about the actual logistics, the actual context. I want you to give up for a moment all the various theories, official lines, the news, information, disinformation, the savants on the television, and think for a moment of the arena in Oklahoma City. 18,000 people gathered, I think, 2 or 3 days after the explosion. The president was there, the governor of Texas was there, Billy Graham was in attendance. There were young people and old people, grieving Oklahomans. There was a musical choir there, and it was one of those colossal events that the nation was wired into and was watching together, rubbing shoulders in television land. And Billy Graham stepped to the lectern, and there he was, this veteran prophet of the American middle class, Middle West. Whether you admire his ministry or not over the years, you do recognize his enormous successful relationship with the American people. Not just prayer breakfasts with a series of presidents, but a relationship, face-to-face relationship, a confessional relationship that is pretty deep as American culture goes. He knows the American mind if he knows anything. The popular mind, the ordinary, the man and the woman in the street and on the farm. You have to give him that. And he stepped to the lectern and he thanked the governor and he thanked the senator and he said he wanted to thank President and Mrs. Kennedy. And then he corrected himself. But one was not entirely unprepared, because the night before, Bernard Shaw, in wrapping up as anchorman for CNN, said that the rain was coming down in Oklahoma City and the rescue workers were going home for the night. And President Kennedy would be arriving at noon.